Hi everyone, Preston here, Will over there,
Hey.
and it's time for another video game review. And if you love the Nintendo 64 and first-person shooters, you'll no doubt be excited about the review to come, because in this review, we're going to be talking about the one and only GoldenEye 007 for the Nintendo 64, released in late 1997 by Nintendo and Rareware. And I know there's really nothing we can say about this game that hasn't already been said by God knows how many other people at this point. But we're still going to be talking about it anyway because this game has held up extremely well since 1997. It's been a huge influence on first-person shooters that have come after it. And I should also point out that my father is going to chime in at some point during this review because, you know, he played this game long before I did, and he's got some great things to say about it as well. So, enough further Mountain Dew, not that we're sponsored by it. Let's get on with the review. Long before Medal of Honor, long before Halo, and long before Call of Duty, there was GoldenEye 007. The venerable team at Rareware had cooked up many Nintendo console games that shook up the ground, but this first-person shooter on the Nintendo 64 absolutely annihilated it. Sure, there were first-person shooters before this one, but creating a successful one for the N64 with a deep story, in this case the plot of a film, and 4-player split-screen seemed like a super challenging feat. And through determination and ingenuity, Rareware managed to do it. The story follows that of the 1995 GoldenEye film. 9 years after one of his fellow MI6 agents is defeated during the infiltration of a Soviet chemical weapons facility, super spy James Bond must save the world from GoldenEye, a satellite weapon designed to cause a global financial catastrophe. If you've delved into the James Bond 007 multimedia franchise, you know what to expect. A lot of firearms, a lot of gadgetry, and a lot of beautiful women. The 12 missions are knee-deep in enemies hell-bent on mowing you down with their bullets. But thankfully, you've got more than enough rifles, pistols, grenades, and other weapons to level the playing field, not to mention several difficulty levels and control schemes to tailor the game to your preferences.
As reasonably expected for an N64 game, GoldenEye's graphics aren't as technically impressive as most other games on the console. For example, while many of the levels are very large and intricate, they can also be somewhat bare bones in terms of detail, especially in regards to many of the outdoor levels where the map's draw distance can be much more noticeable. Furthermore, the game's level design largely focuses on conveying the bare essentials, with each map giving the appearance of similar-looking stone or metal-looking hallways and rooms with minor additions to indicate what type of rooms or areas they actually are, such as boxes, computers, lockers, etc. This isn't so much a criticism of the game, as this is largely symptomatic of GoldenEye being one of the first of its kind as an FPS game. Many early first-person shooters, take Half-Life for example, have also used this fairly bare-bones approach to its design to focus its hardware on other aspects of the game, such as its gameplay, map size, and character animations. On that note of its character design and animations, they're very likely one of the more technically impressive aspects of the game, with the detailed designs of the characters and enemy NPCs. For example, many of the enemy NPCs have specific crouch and standing animations for whether or not they're behind cover, as well as unique death animations depending on where and how many times they've been shot.
You want to know why GoldenEye is the greatest video game of all time? It's because of the replay factor. I remember when it came out in 1997 and wanted to play it all the live long day. In fact, when we had 4 people playing, we built, and I'm not even joking, we built a grid out of cardboard that would face up against a 20-inch television so that you couldn't, in theory, see what everybody else was doing in their box on the screen. It was stupid, but it was awesome because the game was awesome. And then you go back years later and you look at it and you're like, the graphics aren't great. No, they are. The graphics are really awesome. For that time frame, they were next level. The guns, like, all right, there's a couple guns. There's a lot of guns. And there's the golden gun, which is the coolest thing of all time. It is literally the end of all guns. It is the world beater of all weapons. The golden gun changed the way that video games were played. I could go back and boot it up today. I could go back and boot it up tomorrow. I could boot it up 5 years ago or 5 years from now. The game is ultimately still the greatest video game of all time.
It's no secret that the Nintendo 64 was full of great multiplayer games, and GoldenEye is one of the best of the bunch. You've got a laundry list of characters, we could talk about the controversial inclusion of Oddjob, but that'd be redundant, a handful of maps, and all sorts of ways to tailor the matches to your liking. Time limit, targeted number of kills, weapon sets, you get the picture. And if for some reason you want to have a match in which the only way to dish out damage is to slap someone, that option is available. I may or may not have done that multiple times. Oh, and who can forget the golden gun? Quite the friendship ruiner, am I right?
Every game since 1997 that has any element of first-person shooter owes everything to GoldenEye. Sure, there was first-person shooter games prior to GoldenEye, but nothing compared to GoldenEye. Nothing compared to that sound that you heard when the gun just locked. The click, click. Nothing said as much as that music as you were moving from room to room. Nothing was even as exciting as the hold music and hearing that James Bond theme. Whether you were playing head-to-head, whether you were playing missions, you knew that you were in the presence of an excellent game. And every game after it borrowed something from it, whether it would be the sound, whether it be the graphics, whether it be the vulnerability aspect, whether it be the multitude of armament, the multitude of weaponry. Everything owes back to what happened in 1997 when GoldenEye came out.
So that's GoldenEye 007. It shows a little bit of age, but ever since 1997, this first-person shooter has been a force to be reckoned with in the genre. And it's still really, really fun to play to this day, whether you're playing the story mode or you've got friends over for some death matches. It's just a great, great time. And one of the best times you can have on the Nintendo 64. Or with the first-person shooter in general, really. So thank you very much for watching our review. Hopefully many more reviews to come, whether it be like first-person shooter, more first-person shooter games, more Nintendo 64 games, and just more great games in general, you know, from all sorts of different genres and consoles. And of course on PC, hopefully we'll get to that. So in the meantime, thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you later.